Yanda Wanzo Besan Yeri Wada Shazunda. The Vareshavan Jiden Kemba Jibon de Vakaloju. Anna Meva Lada Menanje de Sanjay. Benjawa Shayatubana Chaz. Should the Jazu Java de Mahajim and Dishin. Dajumba Yanda Wanzo Besan Yeri Wada Shazunda. The Vareshavan Jiden Kemba Jibon de Vakaloju. Lana Meva Lada Menanje de Sanjay. Benjawa Shayatubana Chaz and Should the Jazu. Dumpa Jumden and Dishin One Dajumba Yanda. Zobe Sanjay Wada Shazunda Devarisha. Jiden Chemba Jibun de Vakalo Juvan Lana Tada Menanje Demba Sanjay Jumde de Beju. Shaja Tuba La Chazano Chuda Jazuche. Kanzer Ganya Zowa Jadam Zea Sajan de Nakumatu. Nani Jiden de Na Georgia Zoan de Zekeba Jana Chaz. Nanda Bunga Jodo Susan Wa Yichi Jazo Sejan. Chavan Jiden Sumna Lamewa Gombo Chonye Jana Chaz. Senjo Demba Chimenda Veje, Sento Dava Jana Chaz. Direje La Seva Sumaje, Nyame Chenje Jana Chaz. Gombo Tuji Chedemba Tamje Chembe Doma, Sonam Yeden Jazu. Dishenja La Chaz, and Lord Haben de Jato. Giving as one that rejected and Muchojo, Chinju Jana Chaz. Trene Treva Loya de Labatala, and Chingetamba Yuden. Gindulaya Chaz, and on Devachi and Vijash. Gavapun Sova Jaranga Sende, Tene Sanje Temba. Karmara Rima Meda Jumaseva, Chubra, Melom Lota Genda. Dijejan, Deterta, Sonam Dia, Tamjeseva, Yokobantu, Kenjan, Gadan Nada, Shivella, Jube, Siveson, Jovan Jevaresho.
To the teacher, the blessed one, unconquered, full destroyer,
The completely
perfected, fully awakened being.
Perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata know of the word. Supreme guide of beings to became. Teacher of gods and humans. To you the completely and fully awakened one. The blessed one, the glorious conqueror. The secure from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond. The full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened. Perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata know of the word. Supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans. To you the completely and fully awakened one. The blessed one, the glorious conqueror. The subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one beyond. The full destroyer. Completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and good conduct. Sugata, know of the word. Supreme guide of beings to be tamed. Teacher of gods and humans. To you the completely and fully awakened one. The blessed one, the glorious conqueror. The subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When a supreme among humans you are born and deserved. You paced outside strife and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With the pure body's form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, renowned the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the three worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, Teacher having all understanding, the field ornate with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to darkness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower levels, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realization, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha.
star, mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion of drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning or cloud. See, conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain when called all seeing, subdue the four forms, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jano Zoje Jano No Chanju Bado Dande Dagin Zoje Sonam Je Dola Penji Sanje Jano Zoje Jano No Chanju Bado Dande Dagin Zoje Sonam Je Dola Penji Sanje Jano Zoje Jano No Chanju Bado Dande Dagin Zoje Sonam Je Dola Penji Sanje
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Kanga Gombala River, dear Gomna Tawaja, Gomna Dawaya and Dawanya to take it, Kanga Takumjo, Telandoa Kanyamo, Dawanya to take it on the Wapon, Conjunto Woman and the water, get into who made it on the water, the woman and the Yavanya, the should of women do that, the Wonder Woman and Sumba Conjunto Woman, whatever. The Shinto Bondo is Shalanda when you Congress on the water. The one you bought it there and the Bondo on the general, Kedendo Bondo, the one year. Congress the wrong about on the road and the condo. Son of the Vesamanda, Mazoma, Gomasuma, the Hozemanga, under the Hozem, Gomami, Son, Mazondo, the Zona Baton Jedo, Nawamendi, so on Chicho, Mazon Chicho, the general woman did and no woman de woman and the one woman is Sumba. Consider one and whatever million or a should have did. One of the woman there, son of Mazon and the water and the Juba, the way and the daughter soon. The water and the water, the nature, the water and the water, changes. Kedendo Kanyama, the end of winning, Chipopo, the Lady, Chibuan. Kedendo and the water, Chibuan, the woman. The woman Kanang over Jibano over Shaman, Chuba Jubaman, the interpretation. The Wakanda Dobronga and the Waten, conjured Conjured. The Wakanda Dobronga, Dennis and Batemia, conjured what you want. The one is the method, the one you buy Juban, Donaldson, my Yumba, the curator, Donaldson. Yenama Yujavanya, Donaldson, the John Rodan, Jobach. Don't want of a Shejavara, the Javanya. Kangia don't danger the women of the danger of soldier, someone by when you saw that Charles. Yeah, hello. So today we just kind of do the review on the 70 stanzas on the emptiness. So review means just stanzas number 1 that includes all the 70 stanzas. Stanzas number 1 says, through the Buddha, though the Buddha has spoken of the durations, originations, destructions, being and non-being, low, moderate, and excellent by the force of the worldly conventions, they have not done so in an absolute sense. So I think that's pretty much talk about the existence, where something says, yeah, it exists or it not exists. Within the existence, there is duration, and there is the originations, there's the destructions, and then there's the low, moderate, and excellent. So the question is, what do you mean by existence? Exists in what sense? So Nagarjuna directly pointed to the reflections, illusions, so reflections, the illusions, something that we can see through our eye consciousness, right? Through our eye consciousness, that pretty much proof for us to think it is exist. So then the question is, if the reflections that exist, because I have seen it, I'm seeing it with my eye, so therefore it must have exist. So now the question is, the reflections exist inherently, or reflections exist by itself, or reflections exist due to due to the relations of the face and the mirror. So if the reflection exists just because of the contact of the face and the mirror, then we cannot say the reflection exists by itself. So it exists means exists relatively, with the contact of the eye, your face, and the mirror, and that makes the mirror reflection existing. But reflections, what if exists by itself? Then the question is, before the meeting of the face in the mirror, reflection may exist. Or if the reflection exists at the time of your looking at the mirror, a reflection has some kind of property that can go away, it will move away from your eye, or it will come from another place to the mirror. So even, we see it, but it has no nature. So it's not naturally exists, not exists inherently, no intrinsic property. Even that thing that we can see, So that means, yes, the illusion like reflections exists. Another word is reflection exists in illusion like, that we can accept. It is also logically provable to say reflection exists like illusion. Reflection can be seen with your eye, relatively. So, and that's the kind of, reflections, the illusions, magicianal conjurations. So that's the thing. And then the question is that if the things that you see, things that you see is only exists illusion-like, and how about the sound that we hear, the smell and taste and the textures? So all now Nagarjuna is saying these are all same, exactly the same. They all exist in the contact of the sense power and, you can say the substance. So, or you can say with the contact of your sense power and derivative of the element that is existing or dwelling outside your body. Right. So the derivative of the element with contact with your ear sense power, you hear the sound, derivative element with the contact of the nose, you smell, derivative with contact of the tongue sense power, we taste, derivative the element, the contact with your body sense powers, and the textures happen. So that is something that we, even the sensorily, we say, I have directly experienced. Objects that are directly experienced has no nature, no essence, no intrinsic property, but it only exists with the relation, with the contact of the sense power and outside of the derivative element. So then we say the sound, smell, taste, textures all exist like illusion. They all exist like illusions. So therefore, you can say they're all lie. Now, lie does not mean it's not exists. Lie exists because it can deceive you. So therefore, lie exists. Lie, the meaning of the lie is not interpret in non-existence. So now this illusion like existing is the, what we call, the aspect of illusion like existing is there. Therefore, that illusion like existence is the basis for, expressions. So expressions. That illusion like, the aspect of the illusion like existing is the basis for attachment. And so that illusion like existing has, Chandikirti says that Chandikirti says that, it exists in a very, very, existing is, sometimes people say it's in a click. It's in a click, just in a very, very tiny way, very fragile, So now, if you believe that illusions as a truly existing, that deceives you. If you understand they all exist like illusions, then that illusion-like aspect of the phenomena is not going to deceive you, rather it entertains you or it benefits you. With that illusion-like, you can meditate compassion, you can practice the generosity, you can practice the patience, you can practice the concentrations, right? You can, that illusion can be basis for to expressions, which means you can now teach, other to understand the impermanence, the condition of suffering, and origin of the suffering. So this illusion was the basis for the Buddha to guide sentient beings. This illusion, the aspect of the illusion like is the basis for the sentient beings being deceived and cycled in samsara. So now these things that we say that directly experience is not proven to be intrinsically exist. And then other than that, things that are not sensorily perceived, and then say, or cause and effect, or cause, effect, or relation of the cause and effect, and past, the present, futures. These are not directly experienced by the sensual perceptions. We do not perceive sensorily the past, present, and the future. Because the times is hypothesized, is hypothesis, or hypothesis, and then so is constructed or fabricated by the thought and the languages. That again says, even the object of the mind, object of the thought, these are also illusion-like existence. So, so back to the point in Buddhist, in the Heart Sutras, even the five aggregates are empty of intrinsic existence. Even the five aggregates, what does that even means? Even, and some master that says that includes, constituents of the elements and sense faculties and object of sense faculties. And one time His Holiness says, even the five aggregates, empty of intrinsic existence, even means the self of the persons do not exist intrinsically, even the five aggregates, which are basis for the I, that too is not intrinsically exist. So that kind of, so now this is why the Chandiki, the stanzas number, has a Nagarjuna's 70 stanzas. From the first stanzas, it said, spoken of the durations, the originations, destructions, and being and non-being means existing and non-existence, and the low, moderate, and excellence, or good or best or excellent, or the low class or the middle class or the supreme class. Whatever you say is, when the Buddha speaking of that is mainly, or how to say, strictly from the conventional world, not absolute, in the absolute sense. Because this is what you understand, so Buddha has to, use the sentient beings, their terminologies, their fabrications. So first about the durations, and duration is, as I mentioned earlier, duration is nothing but, some people say hypothetical. Hypothetical, I'm not sure, is hypothesize. And the hypothesis, durations, the past and the present and the futures. Because no past exists. No past exists by itself. The past exists only in the mind by depending upon present. When you see the present, and you can find what has passed. So, and the past, the existence of the past is only because of the present. It's not saying that past exists in the present. When you reflect on the present, you understand the past. So, like when you see the east, when you know this is the east, and automatically that gives you the knowledge of what is the west. It is not because the west is in the east, right? So knowing is the reason for knowing west. Knowing present is the reason, or knowing present is the condition for knowing in the past. So knowing present is the function of the present, the activity with the present. What is this doing? So when doing, producing, making something, then that gives you the understanding of the futures. So other than that, there is no past and the futures by themselves, exist by themselves. So once you understand the past and the future the future exists because of the activity of the present, and past exists because of what is in the present, what has produced, what is happening. So what is happening, what is being produced, what is as a consequences, and then you understand the past, and when you say, what is this doing for? What is this going towards? And then that gives you the understanding of the futures. Other than that, there is no independent past and the future. And then the present is also conceptually present is conceptually measured, make it to be a present, conceptually measured and make it to be a present, like a minute, an hour, a day, a month, or years. Because the minute consists of the 6 seconds, and they're giving a name as a single word as a minute. So the minute, the duration of the minute is 60 seconds. So that does not mean minute exists somewhere, somewhere within the seconds. There is no minute within the seconds. There is no minute being present within the seconds. Not before the second, not after the seconds. After 60 seconds, there's no minute. Or before 60 seconds, there's no minute. There during the 60 seconds, each of the seconds, there is the minute being present. So conceptually fabricated the fabric with the durations of the 60 seconds, and conceptually, projected or constructed as a minute. Therefore, you have a duration, you have a present. When you look into the present, the durations, what makes the presence, what you have constructed the present out of. So those things are past and the future. Minutes that are past, minutes that are to be coming, that together you make the present. So therefore, the present is again conceptually constructed, it's a mental construct. So therefore is hypothesis, right? Hypothesis. So the duration is like, therefore, duration is not intrinsic, not exists by nature. It has no nature. Duration by itself has no nature, no essence. Present has no essence, present has no nature, which means present do not exist, by nature. Present do not exist inherent. Sometimes people, misinterpret that emptiness of the present, or present and emptiness is like, the person with his hat, person with his clothes. The emptiness of the present is not separate, because the present is not intrinsic existing, is the emptiness. Right? present not intrinsically exists, present not exists by nature, present has no nature, is the emptiness of the present. Because you understand the present's ultimate nature, you understand the very nature of the present itself is empty. So that's kind of about the durations and the originations. So originations is like what has origin, or what is arising. What is arising, again, is part of the durations. Arising is the kind of to becoming. Arising means to becoming. Arising means going to happen. Going to happen or to becoming, which exact meaning in that not yet happened, not yet occurred, not yet happened. So not yet happened, therefore yet to becoming. So again, the originate arising means is not intrinsic. There is no such thing in the arising. So why? Because when you say arising of the sprout, is not talking about sprout is arising. Right. Sprout is arising. If the sprout is arising, sprout is the sprout, therefore it is being produced. Once it's produced, it is not arising. Once it being produced or arisen, it is no longer arising. Things that are already existing is not arising. It is not it is not yet to becoming. It is already happened. It is already came. So arising and not in things that are already arisen, and arising is not about arising is not about something that is not being produced, not arise from the cause. So then it says, what is arising? If for the now first we negate, arising is not about things that is already arisen. Now second step, you may think, the things that already arisen is not arising. It makes sense. Now, which means arising means something not yet arisen, something not yet produced, something that is not produced, something that is unborn. So now the question is unborn is coming? Is unborn is yet to be coming? If the unborn is yet to be coming, it is coming. It has any activity of coming. So unborn has no activity of coming. How can it yet to be coming? Or how can it be coming? So there is, arising. When we say the arising, the idea of the arising, there is no such thing. In arising itself has nothing. And then the question is, does that mean arising does not exist at all? So like we say, the past is only exists when you reflect on the present. That cause is only exists when you reflect on the effect. Right? So that means when you reflect on the present cause, then it allows you to conceive something is coming. So something is coming is because of not there in the coming because of the present cause has activity that gives you the picture of what is going to be happening. Right. So when you the farmers is working on the field, and that is the kind of the working on the field, and then this is because I'm planting the seed, sowing the seed, so I'm going to have a better harvest in the futures. The coming of the harvest is in their mind. So the coming of the harvest is not exist by itself. It reflects in your mind because you are right now understanding the present farm or present activities of the farming. So Nagarjuna is saying the durations, originations, So only you can understand these are existing in conventionally by the force of the worldly convention. And then the destructions. So destructions, death, or disintegrations, or cessation of the cause. So destructions, something that is, disintegrated, something that is ceased to exist. So, and that's also, mental projections, because when you say someone who is, when the seed has ceased to exist, when the seed has ceased to exist, when the yogurt ceased to exist in order for milk ceased to exist in order for become the yogurt. So that destruction of the milk or destruction of the seed is not annihilation. It is not not annihilation. It is not become non-existing. If something not become non-existing, something that exists into something else, yogurt, milk turn into yogurt and something else. So if you think destruction is intrinsic, then why not you say destruction is production? Because destruction of the milk is in the, destruction of the milk is because milk turned into yogurt. Destruction of the seed is turning into sprout. When the seed is no longer there, therefore you say it is destroyed or disintegrated or ceased to exist. If that is what you think, and then why not you call it the cessation of the seed is called it projections, because that time seed sprout has kind of arisen, sprout is being produced. So the destruction of the seed is no longer, it is annihilation, it is no longer non-existing. So there is no destruction intrinsically, because when seed has destroyed or destroyed or ceased to exist, seed has turned into sprout. When the milk has destroyed or died or ceased to exist, turned into yogurt. So that destruction is not a destruction, not a non-existing. So I think that's the idea of the destructions are not intrinsic. It's not absolute sense. It is only, only in the house through the force of the conventional. So through the force of the conventionalism is only in the language, linguistically, right? Linguistically, it can be known as destruction. It can be known as a cessation. It can be known as a death. But in the absolute sense, there is no destruction. There is no death. There is no, cessations. Absolute sense. So then now here, that's about the origination and destructions and being and non-being. So here in translators translate being and non-being. In Tibetan, yedam mebas, it's the existing and non-existing. So existing and non-existing, again, when you think about the originations, existing of the originations is not because of the arising of the sprout that being exists by itself. The originations arising of the sprout is existing, but depending upon the present or the cause. Coming of the sprout is existing just because there is cause. Coming of the sprout. For example, today's Wednesday, coming of the Thursday is because of the Wednesday is disintegrating. So when the Wednesday is disintegrating, Wednesday has the end, then that means Wednesday has the end, Wednesday is going towards the end. That proves the coming of the Thursday is exist. Not because the Thursday is somewhere waiting for the Wednesday to be end. So the existing of coming of the Thursday is because of the Wednesday, impermanence of the Wednesday. So the existing of coming of the Thursday is not intrinsic, rather it is relatively, And the same way, the distractions of the seed, destruction of the milk, death of the previous life. So these are all existing, right? Is not when we say the death of my previous life is existing, and I cannot say the death of the person is existing in the past or before the past. Right. So if in the past is almost like I have a milk in the broken cup. So when you have a milk in the cup has broken, can you say I have a milk in the broken cup? So there is nothing in the past. The past of my previous life or the death of my previous life is existing. The only proof is the present me, one who is facing the consequences of previous life persons, his karma. That is the only proof of the past life. So the past is existing, is not by itself, like reflections do not exist by itself. The past of my previous life is also not exist by itself. It existing because of the present me that existing and facing the consequences of the good deeds and the bad deeds. So you see the 3 times I existing is conventionally. So the existing and non-existing is, existing and non-exist is not decided or determined by object themselves. Is depending on other factors. Depending on, like death of my previous life is depending on me, who is born right now in the present time. So yogurt is the proof of the death of the milk. So therefore, you say the existing of the past of the milk is proven by the present yogurt. So that understood, the past of the milk exists. So some of the schools, they said the past of the yogurt, past of the milk is not exist because it's not with the yogurt. The past of the seed is not exist because it's not existing with the sprout. Which, what they think is if anything that exists, existing is only in the present. The past and the futures are not exist. Only present exist.
This is Sutrantika.
Yeah, Sutantikas and the mind-only schools, they stay there. The past and the futures not exist. Only present exists. I think this is the basis for some master that says, just remain in present. Past is gone. It is gone means for them it means it's not exist. Future is not exist. Only present exists. Even the present of the minute is based on the past and the future of the seconds that combine and construct in your mind at the present minute. So the Prasangika school says there is no present that intrinsic absolute sense. Present is depending on the past and the future. The past and the future is depending on the present, mutually dependent. If one is not intrinsic, three of them, the past and the present and the futures, are all not intrinsically exist. If one relatively exists, all of them is relatively exist. So the existing and non-existing. Now, therefore, you can say, my past exists because of the present. So therefore, you can say karma that I have committed in 500 lives before. So it exists, is continuously producing the result. So some karma that karma that you commit in the present life, it can continuously, chase you or with you, bringing the consequences for many lives. So that karma cannot deny that deny it to be existing. If everything is past and the future does not exist, and all of the karma that yesterday, just before an hour, are all non-existing. If all this karma is non-existing, how can that bring the consequences? So also, it is not right to say this is the consequence of the karma that I have committed yesterday, because yesterday is past. So non-existing cannot produce any result. Or they have to say, if they think past and future is non-existent, only present exists, then you say, oh, non-existing can, produce something. So if the non-existing can produce the result, why not rabbit horn can poke your stomach? So the Prasangik school says existing and non-existing is not in an absolute sense, is relatively. So therefore, so so low and moderates, remember number like sometimes we kind of discriminate low faculties, sometimes low IQ, middle IQ, so or some low class, middle class, So these are also relatively. There is no absolute in low class. There is no absolute in middle class. There is no excellent in, another excellent class. So when Buddha says, these are durations and originations, based on that, Buddha teaches impermanence. Buddha teaches about what is samsara, how do you end the cyclic existence. So, Buddha have to, use conventional reality, because the samsara and nirvana is the conventional. Samsara and nirvana as a two separate phenomena is conventionally. Now, ultimately, there is no nirvana and samsara as a true absolute. So it's like you close your eye and you open your eye. Open eye, yourself being open eye, yourself the closed eye. It's not intrinsically separate. When the eye open, you're open. When the eye closed, you're not being able to see. Samsara and nirvana is like that. When you awake about the reality as it is, nirvana, when you're not knowing the reality as it is samsara. It is not the kind of, ranking, like, lower and lower rank and higher rank. It is not about, youth and old. It is not about in changing the body. It's just samsara means, with ignorant, not knowing the reality and believing everything as it is, as it appears. So nirvana means you knowing the reality as it is. Yep.
Could you repeat the definition you just gave of samsara?
Samsara is, samsara means not knowing the reality, believing everything as it appears is samsara. So nirvana, Nagarjuna says, Siva Yonsu Shivanya, Tina Nyangati Shichawa Chus. Siva Yonsu Shivanya, knowing the samsara as it is, and you are nirvana. Right. When you understand samsara as it is, and you are no longer samsaric being. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So Siva Yonsu Shiva Nyangandi Shichawa Chus. So this was I found in 60 stanzas. Siva Yonsu Shiva Nyangandi Shichawa Chus. So many times people, I think, have kind of idea of samsara and nirvana is, or maybe you're going to change your body, or you're just born in somewhere in nirvana. So Nagarjuna says nirvana or liberation is if you understand the samsara, the system of the samsara, 100%, and you are no longer samsara. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confused and then you awaken. Right. So it's like you're confus So I think that's by the force of the worldly conventions, they have not done so in the absolute sense. Any questions, Christine?
Yes, I need to refresh the concepts.
Uh-huh.
Can you give me the definition again of the worldly conventions? What do we mean by that?
Worldly conventions means in the mundane, in the sense of mundane, ordinarily accepted. Say, yeah, there is the past, there is the present, there is the future. So it's just mundanely, ordinarily, I have this language, I know this terminologies, so I say it as a conventionally. This is our kind of I how is that? I know this, from the people. People say that there's a future and the present and three times. Most of the students was like that, in the school when we're studying, teacher teach us, impermanence, the condition of suffering and the liberations, and we see, there's a kind of stairs, the many layers, and just go up, which means you are seeing the impermanence and the condition of sufferings, and there's a step. So if you say, when the teacher indicate that there is the order, and you understand, you kind of understand that there is the order, that is mistaken. But the teacher cannot express as it is without going through the conventional, ordinary language. So when we say this Four Noble Truths and the 16 attributes, so when the 16 attributes, what is the first noble truth? Truth of suffering. Truth of suffering has 4 attributes. Then it's what are the 4? Impermanent condition of suffering, right? Empty or independent I, and absence of intrinsic I. So then when this, because the language from the language, it indicates to me that yes, first the impermanent, then the conditioned suffering, then the empty of independent I, then the empty of intrinsic I. So language, how's that? Express orderly, I understood orderly, right? I heard orderly, I understood orderly, and I believe. There's the impermanent. Now the problem is when I believe as order, then I would think, I would kind of tend to think that, impermanence is different from the condition of suffering. The condition of sufferings are different from, absence of independent I. So now, and then when Buddha, and some of the sutra, this is, because of the impermanence, it is the condition of suffering. Now, it's not really seem to be true, because of the impermanent condition of suffering, which means anything that is impermanent, changing, anything that is changing, that under the force of the karma is condition of suffering. If this is the condition of suffering, then I was mistaken. I thought impermanence is different from the condition of suffering. It is impermanent itself is the condition of suffering. Right. So I think there's nothing we can do. This is what Buddha says, I cannot transfer my knowledge to you, or I cannot, take your, suffering from you, like, when we use the finger to take out the thorn from. So the Buddha, only way he can do is conventional concept. So I think it looks like this is why, during the Buddha, and he teach maybe few lines, some are already arhat. Some takes years to be arhat. Some takes many lives to arhat. So, so it is not the discrimination from the Buddha side, and some he liberate much faster, some, he liberates slowly, some, he, liberated many lives. Because they understand the meaning, in a very short, language, very, how to say, they understand that. Some, they have to add more languages. There's one of the masters, Baba Vivek, Dignaka, great masters, Dignaka. So there's a story of the Dignaka, becoming monk. First, the day he became the monk, his abbot gave him the vows, monastic vows. And then Dignaka says, now, what is the purpose of that, receiving these monastic vows? And the master says, the purpose is, to search where is the I? What is the I? Who am I? And then right away, and Lindner went to his room and he meditated. He was so shocked, he couldn't find himself. So he kind of, light up all the candles. He just ran away from the house, just circled the house, his house. And then everybody says, what happened to you? What are you doing? He said, I'm searching, I am. So there's the, Dignaka. So these people are very smart, receive the monastic vow and go back to room and meditate. He kind of understands there is no intrinsic I. That the way he kind of expressed is very weird.
So they say,
Yeah.
so what you are saying, it is that we have to be careful with the classifications, with the concepts, that they are not absolute, that they are not entities, they are explanations, no?
Yeah. I think that when we kind of tend to think of any kind of entity, any kind of meaning, we always think, this meaning or this entities, is relatively exist. It's because of something else. Because of something else, I got this meaning. So sometimes it says, when you, I am very happy today, or I'm not really happy today. So when you say I'm happy, I'm not happy. So when you're happy because of, mental state, or something that you are satisfied you, something that, thrilled in your mind, and there's I am happy. There is no me waiting for happy and not happy. Right? There is no me, outside of the feeling, and apart from the feeling, to be seeking for happiness or not happy. So when the feeling, the happiness feeling comes, conceptually interpret that I am happy, in the language we say, I am happy. Because that I am, being happy, is no different from the feeling itself. Right? So, I am ill, I'm cured, I'm healed, and also you are. There is no me apart from the body. So, so when the self of the person is self, Nagarjuna's Buddha Palitas, they constantly, express this when we think of self. So we always think something intrinsic, self-sufficient, or it is not depending on others. So I am myself happy, myself. So self is always gives you the meaning of independent, intrinsic. There is no self in I am. So therefore, I cannot exist by myself. I cannot be happy, by myself, by myself. I can happy when the happy conditions happening. Right. So I'm depending on the feeling. So depending on the feeling, I can happy. Depending on disappointment, I can not happy or disappointed. Right. Depending on the sad, I am being sad, relatively. I think, theoretically, logically, yes, we kind of, accept that there is no such thing as the absolute or intrinsic. But, this theoretical understanding or intellectual understanding is not powerful enough to convince the mind, right? So therefore, we have to think many times, contemplate, until the mind is 100% convinced with your theory, right? So when you write the thesis and you have to convince, other persons, and then when they're convinced, they approve you, right? So it's like constantly we use the reasoning and the logic to convince the mind. So once the mind is being convinced, and then it has become spontaneous. Right? So if something bad thing happening, and there's a spontaneously, response, how to tackle this. And so I think that's the so I think I have managed, I've said that before, like when you say people think that what happened when we died. So now the question is, what do you mean by when do you die? Is there any time that you can say that is the time I am dead? So when you become youth to the adult, you don't say, my youth was died. So when an adult to the old age, We don't say that my adult age has died. So what is the moment that you can really for sure to say this is the time I am dead? So, when you died with this body, when you separate from this body, if that is the time you can say, for sure, I am dead. And that very time you are born in some other form. So there is no any time you can show that you are died, not born. So if there is no time that without being born you cannot be die, so what is the death? And the born and the death, how's that? The born and died is conventionally and mundane is contradict. If you die, you cannot born. If you're born, you cannot die. So what is the moment when you're apart from the body? That very moment, can you say is death or the birth? So right now, we say this is the 5 p.m., 51 right, p.m. in California. It's a 5:51 in California p.m. It is the time by itself proving as a day or night. So 5:52 p.m. California time. It only says it's evening. That very moment in the daytime in India. So the 5:55 California time is not going to prove it's there only the evening time, not the morning time. So that's why you say relatively. With California, it is evening. With India, it is morning. So relatively, you can say the 5:55 California 5:52 p.m. is not going to prove anything. So the death of this life is not absolute, and it's not by itself is the death. That very moment, and you are born. So the destruction is not intrinsic, means there is no destructions intrinsically exist. Now, I think the Buddha is saying that, we can understand, we can name anything, any entity. We can say entity of the color of the bread, entity of the smell of the bread. We can separate that, in a conventionally means relatively. With relation with I can say the entity of the color of the bread. With relations of the nose consciousness, I can say entity of the entity of the smell of the bread. So when I say the entity, means the smell is separate, a single unit, separate unit from the color. The separation of the color and the smell of the bread is with relation to the eye consciousness, nose consciousness, not from the substance of the bread itself. So braid is not going to produce or having color as a scent, color as a smell, and a separate, separate substance from the braid by itself. So separate is because of your eye and your nose. Therefore, with relation to that, you can say the entity of the smell of the braid, entity of the color of the braid. So now that kind of helped you to, when you say about or the color of the braid, or smell of the braid, or taste of the braid, a texture of the braid. So that does not deceive you. There is color, smell, taste, the textures separate in the substance, of the braid. Because the separate because of the relation with eye and nose and tongue and body. They are separate, So they are separate from that four doors, or the four doors, right? From the four doors, and seeing each separately, that makes you, that gives you the idea of the separation of the color, smells, taste, textures of the braid. It's not because separation that you found from the substance of the braid itself. So the relatively means that. So when you use this kind of analyze, when you use the analogy, right? Analysis, yeah. When you use the analysis, and each of those entity, almost like you can poke them, they popped, right? They popped. The bubble that just disappears. So which means you're kind of understanding their lie. You're proving that separation is lie. Separation of color, smell, taste, textures of the one braid is lie. So they cannot stand with that analysis. Why? Because they are lie. So now, as I mentioned earlier, lie does not mean they are non-existence. They are existing with relation to the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. So with relation that they exist. So therefore, it is illusion like exist. So illusion that exists is not, not 100% non-existing. Another questions, Christine? Your question, another?
No, not yet.
Okay. So, second stanzas, and this is also part of that, has a designations are the designation, right? Are without significance. Dame means without dame. For self and non-self, and self, non-self. So dame means us. So this is why we say no self, So each of those, durations or the origination or the distractions or existing or non-existing or the law or the moderate or excellent, whatever we say, each of the entity has, it is purely designated or constructed by the thought, therefore without significance. They have no essence, to be, there is no any essence to be existing from their side. So dame means others. Now this is why the another things, when we say emptiness, so there is a first we think about when emptiness. What is the empty? What in the empty of what? So empty of what? And in the Sanskrit word, shunyata. So in Chandakya commentaries, he was separating sure and shunati. Sure means say whatever, what empties, whatever is empty. So shunitas in Tibetan we translate that tongpa ni. Tongpa is empty, ni is mere empty. Tongpa ni. So now when it comes to the emptiness, people always tend to think that empty of what? So in the Sautrantika school, when they talk about emptiness of the person, they says emptiness, empty of independent I, empty of permanent I. So now that emptiness is, emptiness of what? Means emptiness of independent I or permanent I. Then the minor school says emptiness. So this is emptiness of external and emptiness of external, which means focusing on the, pointing at the consciousness, and then says it is empty of external. It's almost like pointing at the empty table, says it's empty of cup, plate, because you're pointing at the table is affirmative and negating the cup in the plate. So the Mayanola school, they think about emptiness. First, this is which one is it? The consciousness. And the consciousness is empty of what? Empty of external. Right? Empty of external. So now this almost the same, this table is empty of the cup, empty of the table. So now this man is absence of woman. This woman is empty of man. Right? This kind of cold is empty of heat. This heat is empty of cold. So which means this is not the emptiness. is not mere empty. It is, it is affirmative, how's that? Negation, negative, how's that? Affirmative negation. You have something affirmative and negating something else. So this is why Nagarjuna 70 stanzas says, this is not really emptiness, and it's not total empty, and this is not, if you mean emptiness, shunyata, Chandikya, the commentary on the 70 stanzas says, sure and ti is together. Sure is whatever, nati, so nothing. So that proves that, whole brings that meaning. Mere empty is, there is no suggestion, pure absence. So that means Chandikya is saying that, your emptiness, the Satantika Sura, your emptiness, minor school, your emptiness, you are pointing affirmative and negating something else. So that is not the emptiness. So Tongpa Ni, in Tibetan Tongpa Ni, is not mere empty. There's something not being empty, left. Figure armaments. That word has suggested something is not empty. If you're pointing to consciousness, this consciousness empty of external reality. Yes, you are emptying external reality, but you have left something is not empty, which is referring to consciousness. So you are not, constituting the emptiness of the consciousness, you're constituting the emptiness of external reality. So this is almost like the monks do not drink, monks do not eat in the daytime. For say, the fat monk do not eat in daytime. It's automatically, it implies he must be eating in nighttime. Right. So there is the suggestions affirmative. So therefore, anything that is affirmative left over, it is not the mere empty, it's not total empty. So the Prasangika school saying, we do not say this is the, like this is the present, this is the empty of the past and the future. The present is, by nature, not exist at all, is the emptiness of the present. There is no further suggestion. There is no affirmative, any suggested. Right. So it's no self, means the tongpa, I think dame. So non-self or emptiness is in the Prasangika school, nothing, no entity, no conventional reality, even a conventional reality, no existing has ever existed by nature. Right. So now this brings total, as there is no suggestion at all. So Buddha Palita says, when you see there's something that argument that's disputable in the Prasangika school, which means you do not understand the purpose of the emptiness, the very nature of the emptiness, meaning of emptiness. The very nature of the emptiness is nothing, is total absence. There is no any suggestions, there's no any leftover. The purpose is to end the second existence. The meaning, so there is nothing, intrinsically means everything is relatively. The meaning has to become, it has to be landed on relatively exist. So if you see everything is relatively exists, nothing exists by itself. So then you cannot find any dispute in the Prasangika school point of view. So all the argument, the dispute from the other school is because either they have, interpreted the emptiness to the non-existing total annihilation, or emptiness and emptiness is different from dependent originations. If you see the emptiness and dependent originations two separate meaning, then you can debate, you can dispute. If you see the emptiness means non-existing, total non-existing, then you can dispute. If you understand the emptiness is absence of by nature, which means it is only exists relatively, if you understand that, there is no dispute. Right. So shunati, or sometimes they say shun and shunati. Shun is just empty. Shunati, and the sadhanas shuanata, shunati. Actually, in Tibetan we read like shuanati, jnana and subhava. Actually, shunati, jnana vajra, subhava emago. Shunati means just that. So that in terms in Tibetan is tomba-ni, just mere absence. Right. There is no further any implication, any suggestion. So, Siddhantika school, Vaibhashika school, the no self or emptiness is always, there's something affirmative. You just look into through the mindfulness of the body, you are totally affirmatively focusing on the body and indirectly understands there is no permanent I. So that's their understanding. Right. So, and the person, Nagarjuna said, that's not the emptiness. It's not, mere empty. Something is there, which is not empty. Right. So the minority school says, I consciousness empty of external reality. So something which is not empty. It's empty of external, not empty of consciousness. Right. So it's not shunati. It is not mere empty. This is almost like say, there's just empty of, there's a table which is empty of cup and plate. So it is not talking about totally empty. You can bring the cup and table on the table. Cups and plates on the table, you can bring it back. So then it is not empty. So, so when the existing of the things are, existing of the things is actually exists empty of intrinsic. The very existing itself are empty of intrinsic. Then there is no true self and emptiness of self. So form is emptiness, emptiness form. Form is no other than emptiness, emptiness is no other than form. So it's perfectly fit in that line. So this is why the designations are without significance, which means every designation is relatively projected there, constructed. They do not have any essence, by themselves to be existing. So when you understand this color, smell, taste, textures, and the concept of cause and effect, birth and aging and death, or destructions, existing, low, middle, whatever, there's no essence in each of the entity. Each of the entity never exists by their own essence. So that is the understanding. That is the that is the finding, liberation of yourself. So, and why it's called liberations? Because, what binds you, what is the bondage, is having, fixated or grasping at each of the entity. So when you understand each of those entities do not exist by their own essence, and then it loosens up the grasping. So the being totally set free of that grasping is the liberations. So that is the nirvana. So this is why 60 standards, understanding completely the samsara is nirvana. So this is why emptiness of self and emptiness of self and the self, it is not two separate phenomena. Existing of the phenomena, they themselves not exist intrinsically, is emptiness. And that means they exist conventionally. Yeah. Any other questions? So we have to, think so many times, and then brings that by reading each of the stanzas, they contemplate many times. So if there is some kind of sense of dharma dharma and understanding of dharma that brings the blessing. So that is the only way we understand the reality, we understand reality, or we try to set free ourselves from the deceptions, is understanding the reality, and it is the blessing. So we call chinlap, and it's chinlap means changing the potential. Before you are always tend to overpowered by any emotional, say any object that appears that change your mind. Now you have, you have generate these kind of wisdoms that change your potential of the mind. So it is not easy to deceive yourself. So with that means that dharma means it keeps you from, it protects you from, it protects you from deceptions, protects you from, controlled by emotions, protect you from the effect of suffering from emotionally overpowered. Right. So the suffering is because you are not being able to control the emotional. You just kind of give in that emotional, and then that brings the consequences. So Friday we go one time again. Then probably we can use the Wednesday and the Friday as 60 stanzas. And the Saturday I think we read Letter to Friend, Nagarjuna. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Sanju Simjo Rinpoche, Majepa Nageju, Keva Nyamba, Mewa Yo, Kone Kondo Pepo, Ponye Dawa Rinpoche, Majepa Nageju, Keva Nyamba, Mewa Yo, Kone Kondo Pepo, Pama Simjen Tamje, Dada Deju, Jengro Tamje, Tado Tonga, Sanju Semba Kano Sushu Pepo, Tada Gunje, Molam Jubju, Parera Beku, Penda de Woman, Jereza, what is the Jadu Yishabe, Side, but thank you.
May the precious body mind not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Trinity Contingental, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much.